we are at any stage in our lives having a relationship with food, having our own experience around it, whether you've had any sort of dysfunction or challenges around food or whatever, or even cravings and your desires and how you like to eat, or how you've been struggling maybe with dieting and restricting or not able to get it under control, right? So there's a lot of things that with someone who's coming with diabetes is already coming to the table with, right? So this is really the opportunity to have a lot of compassion for self, really slowing down and giving time and space to have compassion, whether you're just being diagnosed right now or you've been diagnosed for years and you've been on this journey, that there are moments in time where it's just hard and it's just challenging, and all those places that you need to meet within yourself. And sometimes it's very appropriate to slow down and allow yourself to cry, get angry, feel what you're feeling, allow those feelings to come up, because if that doesn't happen and it's not acknowledged, and then there's this resentment that happens inside the body that then almost begin to punish ourselves for it.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Type 1 in Midlife podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Slepp. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 14 years old and now founder and CEO of Abundant Health with Melissa. And as a certified health coach, I know the unique challenges of managing diabetes in midlife and beyond. So I've created a coaching model that has empowered hundreds of women to thrive despite their diagnosis. And each week, I'll bring you conversations and strategies with guest experts, along with insights from my own 40 plus years of living with type 1 diabetes. I'll also share how my faith empowers me both emotionally and helps me to navigate the daily challenges. So if you're a woman ready to redefine your diabetes journey, this podcast is for you. So before we dive in, remember this podcast isn't a substitute for personalized medical advice. Always consult with your physician or medical professional before making any changes to your diet, insulin dosages, or healthcare plan. Well, hello and welcome to episode 73. Today, I'm really excited to have Marla Mervis-Hartmann. She is the creator of Love Your Body, Love Yourself, joining us today. And Marla has transformed her life through self-compassion and now empowers women to appreciate their bodies, making nourishing choices, and how we can build confidence with this. With years of experience at Ai Pono, a eating disorder recovery center, sharing Body-Love Reiki Circles, and was known as the leading body image expert and Reiki Master at Journey Malibu, a drug and alcohol rehabilitation center, and has been featured at TEDx Salinas. Her upcoming book, Befriend Yourself, explores healing our relationship with food, body image, and spirituality. In this episode, Marla will share how self-compassion can support women managing diabetes, our body image, and just thoughts about just life with this disease, and how we can really grow closer to our thoughts and our inner voice, and learn how to speak kinder to ourselves. So we're really going to unpack that today. And this is especially as important as we are aging. And she's going to share some strategies for maintaining a positive body image while managing diabetes, wearing the devices and taking those insulin shots in public. We're all familiar with that. And the role of spirituality in supporting your health journey and managing diabetes. She's going to share some tips for cultivating a healthy relationship with food and a balanced approach to eating over 40. Practical steps to befriend yourself and supportive internal dialogue about your health. And we'll also discuss the importance of community and support, and share a success story from Marla's work, and explore her new book, Befriend Yourself, that is on sale tomorrow, October 1st. So excited to be able to speak about that, a book that is launching tomorrow. So tune in to discover how to integrate the self-compassion and spirituality into your daily routine and start your journey. Her story and her own road through this is so inspiring, and I can't wait to share her with you all. So let's dive in, and we hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did recording it. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the show today. Today, I'm happy to meet, this is a new friend, Marla Mervis-Hartmann. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Melissa. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, most definitely. And I shared with you before I hit record today that I first heard you on Dr. Tabitha Barber's on her podcast. And she was a guest on here last year. I love her. And it was just meant to be that I got to listen to you speak with her on a lot of, and really what you touched on. It touched me, because, I'm a woman living with a chronic disease. My listeners, or most of them, are living also with type 1. And I know what you do and how you approach. And we're going to talk about this new book that you have coming out soon. And all of this, it really is, it's perfect for what we need in our space as well. So I do appreciate you coming here and spending some time with us today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So many of us in this space, like I just kind of alluded to, have a very special reason why we do what we do, what got us here. So share with us what got you where you are, and yeah, we just love to hear your story.
Right. So my work is called Love Your Body, Love Yourself. And it's been through my own trials and challenges around loving my body and dealing with a very dysfunctional relationship with food. So my story really isn't something that's unique. I think a lot of women specifically, and men as well, really have dealt with this experience of diet culture, society. Body needs to look this way. You're supposed to eat this. You're supposed to eat that. What's this? And for me, at a very young age, kind of picking up on these cues that my body's supposed to be a certain way, and then also using food as a way to deal with my issues and my problems. It became my coping mechanism. So when I say use food, I mean all of it. I mean this restricting. I mean the dieting. I mean the binging. I mean the obsession. I mean the for exercising, right? I did it kind of all. And I'll talk a lot about emotional eating, but there's also the emotional dieting and the way want to control our lives, and food can be that way that we feel we have control. And that's what I did. So this issue and this dysfunction and this challenge around food, so coming from an eating disorder to a lot of disordered eating to finding more freedom with my body and food, really has been a process for me. And it's been this kind of inside out journey of learning about how I can love myself more, and how I can feel empowered. And because food is something that we have to eat every day, right? So when I look at this disease of this eating disorder, and a lot of people who deal with addiction, there's often this, well, they can just not drink it or they cannot do it, right? But with food, it is this intimate process, and that we can't really go without experiencing. So after years of hitting a lot of rock bottoms, and really my recovery has been a long one, because recovery from this sort of thing is not like turning the light switch on and off. It's really a cyclical experience of healing. So when I finally started to feel better, I realized, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to share with other women and other men how I found freedom with my body and found freedom with what I look like. And then also how it still can be messy
Mm,
And
yeah.
it's not like I got it all down pat. I'm still
Right.
learning.
Yeah.
And this experience has been a very spiritual one for me as well,
Mm,
because at the end of the day, it's love, right? And at the end of
mm,
sometimes we have to call on a very high, high level love, right? That's
yeah.
not able to access on our own.
That's right. Much stronger than we are. Yes. I'm a
Stronger than
believer
we
as well.
are.
Got to tap into the higher, yeah, to the higher power for sure. When you were, it's amazing because I can see just talking with you, your passion and I think the first step, especially something like this, it's like that stigma around those things, like drugs, alcohol. I'll use those as an example, those things that we can get attached to. Some of them are illegal. So I guess there's that stigma attached to that. So I guess that can kind of, that sort of unhealthy relationship with those things. I guess that's more acceptable, but it's harder when it's like you say, if food is something that it's that relationship with what, how, when, why we eat and all of that. It's like you say, it can get a little messy and get a little sticky. It's amazing. And it's like managing expectations. That's one of my favorite terms. I don't know where I picked it up, but it sticks with me. And it kind of points to this as well. So like when it comes to you and, like how you help and serve and support, in our cases, we'll just refer to women today. I'm sure there's men that are going to hear this conversation as well, um, but even with like our listeners, our audience out there that are living with a disease that doesn't go away, and of course, food, society wise, people just hear diabetes, and the first thing you think, or not me, because I know better because I've been in it for so long, but I think the first association is sugar. They just think, oh, well, you can't have sugar. You can't have that sweet dessert if we're out socially, or they look at you funny because you're reaching for the cake. Well, why are you having that cake? So there is that judgment. There's that. So we ourselves living in this, we're like on the other side of it, even though we have our own. And this is different for everybody because I know we all have, whether you live with the disease or not, you're kind of carrying this uh, kind of these feelings, this relationship with food. But I think what happens when we're diagnosed, I was diagnosed at 14. I've worked with ladies that have been diagnosed in their 50s and their 60s. I mean, the diagnosis is really all over the map right now as far as the ages. And I think about some of them that I've worked with who suddenly, they have a disease that it's centered around food, generally speaking, because food is a very, that's the initial impact on our blood sugar, which was what we're trying to keep in balance, to keep, to stay steady and happy and energy up and all of those things that our blood sugar impacts every day. And then you bring in this. I think it's more dramatic for me when I hear of these women that are later, they're diagnosed later in life, and how their relationship with food has to suddenly um, change or adapt. It's really interesting. And then you tap on age, and then you tap on body image. I know these are all the things we're going to talk about today because those are all things you're bringing into that diagnosis. It's
Yeah, it's very
interesting. Yeah,
heavy, right? It's a very
yeah.
heavy experience. So here we are at any stage in our lives having a relationship with food, having our own experience around it, whether you've had any sort of dysfunction or challenges around food or whatever, or even
Mm-hmm.
cravings and your desires and how you like to eat, or how you've been struggling maybe with dieting and restricting or not able to get it under control, right? So there's a lot of things that with someone who's coming with diabetes is already coming to the table with, right? So this is really the opportunity to have a lot of compassion for self,
Mm-hmm.
really slowing down and giving time and space to have compassion, whether you're just being diagnosed right now or you've been diagnosed for years and you've been on this journey, that there are moments in time where it's just hard and it's just challenging. And all those places that you need to meet within yourself. And sometimes it's very appropriate to slow down and allow yourself to cry, get angry, feel what you're feeling, allow those feelings to come up, because if that doesn't happen and it's not acknowledged, then there's this resentment that happens inside the body that then we almost begin to punish ourselves for it, or it shows up in it can be the F it's, right? F it today because I'm done with this, rather than giving it time and space to be felt and experienced.
Yeah.
Right. And then from that place of compassion, there can be a different type of grounding, and there can be the opportunity to, I may not like it, but I do need to love myself. And even still, how do I care for myself today? And so there's a lot to kind of unwind here. There's a lot to unwind around, like, what are and you brought this up, like, there's already pressure on us from the outside all the time. Don't eat that, do eat this, this is that, that's wrong. I mean, you can't eat anything without feeling like you're doing it wrong.
Right.
Or you feel superior and you're doing it right. Right. And so that all comes from this place of meeting some sort of external authority, an external idea from some sort of food police or some sort of Instagram account that's telling you how to eat. And it is important. And I do think it's important for us, and especially since food is such an issue, to have someone like Melissa, have someone who can be like, this is the guide, and these are the foods, and this within this range. And how do we manage this? Because it is a new education for the body, and it is different way of being. So I think there is that guide. And is that guide held in our highest good of love? Right. And so not lumping in this idea of like, oh, now I have to do this sort of diet and this sort of diabetes diet. It's the same as doing keto or this or that.
Yeah.
Really allowing it to be something separate and looking at it from a completely different angle of like, my body needs something here. My body desires to be held in a certain way with health on many different levels, and food is part of that equation.
Yeah.
So
Gosh,
it's
that's amazing.
really an opportunity to heal.
Yeah.
Heal all these like
Yeah.
beliefs or whatever's.
Are you frustrated with your blood sugar and weight despite doing all the right things? Well, guess what? You're not alone. As a woman managing type 1 diabetes, I've been there too. In my late 40s, hormonal changes disrupted my blood sugar, my mood, and my waistline, and I felt unsupported by my doctors, but found the answers to regain balance. Thankful for that. And if you're worried about how diabetes will affect how you look and feel as you age, and if you're noticing muscle loss, brain fog, poor sleep, or overnight highs, I have a free assessment to identify the top reasons for the weight gain and the blood sugar fluctuations with type 1 diabetes during perimenopause and beyond. And you don't have to navigate this alone. My proven 3-step process, which you will have access to, has helped countless women maintain stable weight and blood sugar into postmenopause. So just click the link in the show notes to take the free assessment now. Let's find balance together. I've been there and I'm here to help you every step of the way. Now back to the show. And the first step, you mentioned a word prior about accepting. I wrote an article about this as well. I think I shared before we started talking on here live today. I was always very black and white with, that's just kind of the way I am. I'm very task oriented. Just do this, do that. I'm very routine, a little bit emotionless when it comes to really the needs that diabetes required. So for years, I took my emotions out, or I don't think I even realized I could bring emotions in. Maybe that's what it really was. I don't know. I just separated the two, and then I've grown as a coach and as a woman living with type 1 as myself. But I've learned a lot. It's amazing because my clients don't realize how much I learned from them, how much coming together, and it's just amazing. We grow and learn from others, and it's transitioned my coaching as well. I'm not just about, okay, counting the carbs, making sure your basal rates. Those are things we work on, obviously, but it's really about the feelings behind your choices every day. And again, all those relationships, and it unpacks depending on what things they're working on. It might be, this is a good example too. We could talk about body image. With type 1 diabetes, we wear devices, or we can choose to wear devices, and insulin pumps are visible, some more visible than others, depending on, the type of clothes you wear and all of that. And that's another thing. It depends on the day, depends on what you're doing. So there's that relationship with this tool, this apparatus, this medical tool that signifies that there's something, and I'll just in air quotes, that there's something different about us. That takes some adjusting, and it depends on the person and the confidence. And it took me years to get to where I would wear a CGM on the outside, meaning something on, like, for instance, right now I wear it on my arm. So I've been wearing it on my arm now for just a few years. It's probably been 4 years, but I hid it on my stomach. I hid it. And again, I didn't realize I was hiding it, but I was hiding it. It's like I didn't want to draw attention, and it was a distraction that I didn't want to have to tend to. So I would just it was just the way that I handled it. And now I'm just the opposite, where I really I invite conversation. I want people to ask. It's amazing how never say never, that our mindset and our relationship with, how visible diabetes to me really should be. It's not something to be ashamed of.
Right. And I think that it really depends on where we are. And I think I think it could be a day-to-day process, right?
Yeah.
Where today I'm feeling vulnerable around this and I don't want any attention on it.
That's
And
true.
today
Good
I
point.
can care less. And I think at the end of the day, is it compassion? Does it feel like you're taking care of yourself? Right. So for you right now, this has become a service, and this is an opportunity to serve. Right. And so is it a distraction? Is it feel vulnerable? Does it feel fearless? Do you feel confident? And really, it's about putting it in its rightful place, that with this disease, it's not who you are. It's a part of your makeup. And when you're feeling healthy, or even when you're not feeling on top of it, it's still not it's still your soul and who you are, and all these other elements of yourself. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Right?
totally
This
agree.
this is just the piece of the
Yeah,
puzzle,
yeah,
right? And sometimes
absolutely.
that piece of the puzzle feels really big, right?
Mm,
And I
yeah,
know for myself, and I think this is important, and this is not to diminish um, anyone with a chronic disease, whether it's diabetes or whatever, is to know that we all are struggling. And that's
mhm,
something that I realized, and I've realized with this, with eating disorders, is that so many people are hiding. They're hiding their their pain. They're hiding their chronic diseases. And we don't actually know what is going on with other people. And we don't know their health challenges. And we don't know. And we can be sure to know that mostly everyone is struggling with something. And
Absolutely.
it's not a health issue. It's an emotional issue that wakes them up at night and
Mm-hmm.
turns them over. There's grief in their heart. There's trauma. There's
Mm-hmm.
a way that their body isn't working the way that they want it to. So when we put ourselves in this place, and remember, I told you at the beginning, you still need to meet that pain, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
important to acknowledge that. We don't want to
Mm-hmm.
skip over that. Just be like, oh, well, I don't get to be upset about this because everyone else is struggling.
Mm-hmm.
However, sometimes it's good to be realized like everyone's struggling
Mm-hmm.
and part of that. And so that helps me to not feel like I am special and there's something wrong with me and that I'm broken.
Mm.
I'm not broken. I'm just like everyone else who's dealing with a challenge in their life, and I'm dealing with something to overcome and
Yeah.
to be with, and to at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, still be really good, a good friend to myself regardless.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I like that. Yeah, most definitely. So it really it starts with the relationship with ourselves,
Mhm.
and then that carries over to, obviously the food, and how we're feeling about our body image, and that, just a relationship with both of those. It's really interesting. So how what strategies have you found effective, um, for a woman, to foster a better body image, especially when we're, we just talked about, um, I do think the biggest thing with those of us living with type 1 is the devices, wearing the devices. That's kind of the obvious thing. Or maybe taking an insulin shot, having to take medicine, test blood sugar, all those things that are visible, that points attention to a disease that we happen to carry. But what would you say is an effective fostering? You just mentioned, but taking that step and trying. I think for myself, I just slowly started to do it. I know it took me years before I would even take an insulin shot in public. I would always go to the restroom. Again, I didn't want to burden anybody's eyes on something that was, something that I had to deal with. I didn't want them to have to witness it. It's amazing when, and I guess it made me feel weaker. I didn't want pity. I didn't want people to feel sorry for me that I had to do this. It was easy for me to just step away, take care of it, and not have to be, for to not have to be seen. But again, I think that takes time. I have worked with clients that are much more bold and confident about doing these things, and some that are not. And that's something that I continue to. And I think all I can do as a coach, and I'm assuming this is kind of how you work as well, is it's just holding space and then showing compassion. Because like you say, we just want to be heard and understood that this is how we feel. So maybe giving us the opportunity to express how we're feeling about those situations. Kind of like what I just did. I know for me, it was just I wanted to avoid the conversation that it would lead to from people, strangers in most cases. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's valid.
It's
If
yeah,
this is
yeah.
something that is not something you want to lead with, then that's okay.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want,
Yeah.
right? In order to take care of yourself and to take care of the part of you. It's not like you have to get to the point where you have to do this in front of people. And that means that you're now okay with it. And if you go into
Mhm.
the bathroom, you're not okay with it.
Yeah.
That's this deep listening to
Yeah.
what you actually need and what you want, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so to answer your question around how to foster a better relationship with our bodies. So regardless of if you're struggling with this disease or not, you're still in a body and you're still affected by negative body image in our society. So I just want to address that because here we can talk about all of this encompassing. So it's really important for us in this society to begin to notice and be aware of how diet culture and diet culture thoughts and beliefs and the way that we are addressed in our society, and to begin to unlearn some of these things. So in the conversation around like, oh, you lost weight. Oh, what are you doing? These are giving attention to our body in a certain way, right? So the question around what are you eating these days, all of that is making our weight so important. So we all have something that we may feel vulnerable about or uncomfortable about our bodies, right? And so I think the most important thing that I can share around negative body image is, what are you saying to yourself on a regular basis? What are you saying inside your head? How are you speaking to yourself? What are you saying out loud? What are this inner dialogue? And I think that it is something that people think they don't have control over, and that it just happens, and that it's going to go away if we start to feel better about ourselves. But I don't think that's the truth. I think we create, the more that we become aware of how we're speaking and what we're saying to us, creates the relationship with ourselves. So if you were your own best friend, or if you were talking to a friend, would you talk to your best friend in that way? Likely not, or you wouldn't be their best friend. It is very important, because you are the closest relationship that you have. So we have to begin to notice what we're saying, question what we're saying. So the first thing is being aware. Wow, every time I get out of the shower, I look and I go, oh, my legs are crepey, right? Oh, what's going on here? Oh, that's happening. Oh, like these are, and then they become habitual. Every time I go and I look in the mirror, what are you saying? Every time you're around this certain friend, right, or someone in your family, you start to feel uncomfortable, and then you start telling yourself lies, right? And so we want to be aware of when that happens, and then we want to question that. Is that true? And, oh, well, it is true. My butt is a lot bigger than hers, or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, does it matter? Yes, it does matter. It does matter, because so much, and then we get closer and closer to realizing that, and this is what I have realized, is like, my upset is really coming from a place that doesn't matter, and is a lie, that my worth has to do with my body and what it looks like. Right. And it makes sense that we feel this way, because the world operates on that. And we do get accolades, and we do get looked at differently when our bodies are a certain size.
Yeah.
So it's not to take that away from us. It's true. And it lives in our society. However, we live inside our own brain. We live inside our own heart. And so the most important thing that you can do on a regular basis is stop being so mean to yourself.
Yeah, it's a self-talk for sure. Yeah. Is that something that you've personally worked through that?
Oh, I mean, I think we're always working through it, right? I don't think it ever ends, because there is that part of the mind that is literally
the negative is always going to show itself,
wanting to protect us, right? And it wants to protect us sometimes through being like, this isn't safe, and you're, all these things, in order to keep us safe and keep our ego safe, so that we don't step out into the world, right? And so we're not always making that wrong, and we're not trying to shut it up. We're wanting to get more information around, wow, that part of me is really upset when I'm in this situation.
Yeah.
And then go into that deeper exploration into why.
Exactly. Taking that step. This is a good segue to ask you, because so you work at and if I say this wrong, please correct me, the Ai Pono. Am I saying that right? Ai Pono Eating Disorder Recovery Center, and the Body-Love Reiki Circles. I've done some Reiki before. It's a very interesting concept. I liked it. So can you give us some examples of maybe some ladies you've worked with, the type of modalities that you're using, obviously Reiki is one of them, and, just talking about that transformation.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about Reiki since we're talking about that. Reiki
Sure.
is, for those who don't know, it's an energy modality that calls on a high vibration of love. It is universal life force. It is the energy of unconditional love. And so what that looks like is I kind of channel that energy or allow that energy in and then can share that with others. So I've been doing this and I found Reiki early on in my own recovery. Um, and it has been something that's been with me for over 20 years. I share it with my clients. I teach it. I do Reiki circles. And what has been so helpful for me is that it is given me a tool to deal with stress. So we know that stress is such a culprit for so much pain and suffering.
Yeah.
And so many people are dealing with so much anxiety and so much overwhelm. And so Reiki releases stress in our body so our body can heal itself emotionally and physically and spiritually, mentally. So when we're calm and when we have an opportunity to calm ourselves, we become our authentic self. We allow that part of us to show up. So Reiki for me has been this opportunity to call love in when I have not been able to love myself in these ways. So what that looks like for me, if as I put my hands on myself, I had a wicked headache yesterday, and my hands were on my head almost the whole day, right? And then boop, the Reiki just took it away, which was amazing, right? So because it's such a heart-based modality and something that I can do, I teach Reiki classes online. I do it in person at this eating disorder recovery center, is that it allows us to find love and love for our bodies. So with someone who deals with a chronic disease, it can help with the symptoms of that. It can help us to deal with the emotions that come up around that. So I'm kind of an inside out and also practical as well when it comes to finding freedom with food and peace with our body, is that there are practical tools and there are things that we need to do as we go through our lives. However, that inside experience and Reiki has been really helpful. So if it's something that you're interested in, please reach out to me. We can do a one-on-one session. You can come to a class. Such a beautiful practice for you to be able to give that experience to yourself and then also share it with others. So I have found
So community-based as well, which is something I was going to ask you about. Yeah. So this is definitely, you're not only just working one-on-one or, with individuals, but just to bring, because there's reinforcement in that, isn't there? More love and more reinforcement.
The more people that are in the energy, the more that's flowing, right? So the more we're in the meditative process, the more we're feeling calm and right. So the more that we're in this beautiful Reiki energy, the better it is. And so for me, I'm kind of like a self-care junkie. I'm always like looking for ways to care for myself. And, whether it's yoga or breath or Reiki or, gosh, I could get going on, walking barefoot outside,
Sure. Grounding.
being with friends, eating yummy, pleasurable food, going out to the ocean. I live in Maui here. So be sure that I have a good work-life balance. All these things feed us.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. And we need reminders about that.
Really do. I know I do.
Myself, just gonna say myself included. It's easy to get caught up in all the minutia, and obviously the grind of blood sugar management. And another thing that we probably won't get this far today in our conversation, but hormones is another thing that we're really tapping into a lot more here. Our audience is a little bit older, midlife, and 40 and above. So that's another thing that comes in. Yes. How we're feeling about our body, its functioning, how hormones impact that. That's again another layer, and it's compounded with with type 1 diabetes, for sure. I've experienced that personally. Yeah.
I'm sure it is, because
Yeah.
when our hormones start to shift and change, some of those parts of us that are maybe not quite so healthy start to rise up to the surface, because
That's for
the
sure.
hormones are not there to support it, right? So once we're finding that new norm, being in perimenopause and menopause, I'm 50, so I'm definitely in perimenopause right now.
Mhm.
It's a it's such a balance, isn't it?
Isn't it?
It's such
Yes.
a ride. It
Yeah.
is such a ride. And I've
Yeah.
definitely hit my physical edge around it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
I
appreciate you sharing that. Yeah.
yeah.
We could probably do a whole,
That's
we could
I
probably
could
do
do
a
a
whole
whole on
episode
that.
on that. I
Yes, I
know.
definitely could.
Yeah. And what I love is the fact that we can say it out loud. We can share it. We can say, hey, me too. It's not just you. And just like you say, with the community and knowing, I think that's one of the best things that we have going for us. There's a lot of noise out there. We can all agree on that. But there's a lot of recognition too and validation as to what we're going through. So it's extra special when we can just talk about it and get together and do that. Really good.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
not from just the place of bitching and complaining, but
No.
from the place of, and that's why it's important to have the right kind of support,
Mhm.
because I think as women, we can come together and just bitch and complain.
You're right about
And
that. Yeah.
there's
Yeah. We
there's
got to
a
have a good
there's
circle for sure.
there's a place for that. But if you're just calling a friend and you're both bitching and moaning,
Hmm.
but to have community, or to have someone like Melissa or myself, or someone that you can actually bring these things to, that can be held as sacred. And
Mm,
some friends can do that, right? Some
absolutely.
friends can do that. And but you know the difference. You know the difference when you're complaining and you're sharing something, and it's just met with, yeah, I know, and blah, 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 blah. It
Right.
doesn't
Right.
actually get received.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
still feels like we need to bitch and complain even more, because
Yeah. You're
sometimes not,
right. Yeah,
right?
yeah. And again, validating it is fine. That's the front end of those conversations. But
Totally.
we always want to walk away lifted up, not drugged down. So that's a spiral out of control for whoever's in that conversation, within those relationships. So it's real important to, yeah, yeah, just to have that close circle that are going to lift us up. They're going to validate but encourage at the same time, right? Yeah, which is what we definitely do that. I think here in the T1D community as well. It's that level of understanding, but we've got to keep encouraging and celebrating the things that we get to do every day and the food we get to eat every day, right? All those things that we can choose, wisely, to serve us. So really good. So
Beautiful.
what, yeah. So what about like, are there maybe some steps that we could take? I know we've talked about a lot of different areas today. Just to wrap it up today, I wanted some things that the ladies can walk away with, some things that maybe resonated with some of the topics that we talked about. So what's the first step or a couple simple steps that they can take to get closer to how they're feeling about all these relationships in their life, including body, food, and
Well,
self, right?
within my relationship that's been gone through so many different stages, my relationship with my body, my relationship with food, and what I've noticed through this whole recovery, and it still continues to this day, is that what has supported me and has been the through line has been the concept of becoming my own best friend. And so I wrote a book about it. If you're listening to this near October 1st, 2024,
Mm-hmm.
it just came out October.
I
So
love our timing. Yes.
if you're listening today, then please we'll put a link below to Amazon. You'll get that Kindle version for super, super cheap. And if not, I have if you order that, I have some free gifts for you. My Body Compassion Collective course. I also have a free course called Breaking the Cycle of Emotional Eating. So if emotional eating is something that's challenging for you, I'll give you the link to that too, Melissa, because
perfect.
That's a course that it's free, and I know, but I really give a lot of really good information in that course. So
Really good.
if that's something that's really challenging to you, this is really important, even more so for you to get under control, because we do know that food is so important in your journey of healing with type 1 diabetes, right? So this is even more of something that we want to get taken care of, right?
Absolutely.
And authentically become your own best friend. So I really appreciate this concept, because it's something that we can look at in our relationship with everything. How do I talk to myself? How do I move myself? How do I relate with others? How would I relate to, and we all get what it means like to be a good friend. And we've all had friends who are really, really good friends. And then we all have friends who haven't shown up.
Right. Understand.
And we know what that feels like. And so we have that capacity to be like, yeah, I'm not being a very good friend to myself right now. And when we use that as kind of our guide, was I a good friend to myself in this aspect, this aspect, this aspect, this aspect, we can really bring ourselves back to neutral, or back to a grounding within that. And then if we're not able to over and over and over again, not be a good friend to ourselves, it's like, I need to go get support around this so that I can be a good friend to myself in this way.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's just amazing things that you've shared today. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to that download myself. I'm going to check that out, because guess what? We're all work in progress, ladies.
Totally.
We need each other. We need some outside ideas and encouragement. And Marla, you are perfect. I appreciate you being here today. And it's like you mentioned, the book is launching as this is aired. It will launch tomorrow. So October 1st is when her book is launching. And definitely check it out right here in the show notes. We'll make it easy for you to get a hold of it. And the free resource that she mentioned as well with that course. And thanks again. And where else can they find you?
You can find me at loveyourbody.loveyourself.com.
Okay, on your website.
Yeah, my website. You can find me, Love Your Body, Love Yourself Always. I have a Facebook group called Peace with Food and Body Confidence.
Yeah. Our website, it does tend to be the home base for everything.
Home base for everything.
Yeah, because that's how we design them, to make it easy for everybody. If you find us there, you can find everything that you are looking for. So perfect. Well, thanks again, Marla. I do appreciate you. It's been amazing to share you with our listeners today. And again, everybody check out Marla and follow her, and check out the show notes. And I'll link everything here to make it super easy. Until next week, I will say bye for now. Have a blessed filled day. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Type 1 Midlife Podcast. We are so grateful for the time that we spent together today. And if this conversation resonated with you, or you just love connecting with others living with T1D, please take a moment to leave a rating and review. Your feedback helps us reach more people who need this community and resources. And if you realize you need more support than you're currently getting, remember, you don't have to struggle alone. Visit me at abundanthealthwithmelissa.com for free resources on mastering type 1 diabetes in menopause, and to stay connected and learn about my coaching programs. We look forward to being together next Monday. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a single episode. Remember that together we can age gracefully with type 1 diabetes.